Welcome to OneWord.com's podcast. Each episode revolves around one word.
Today's word is
advice. Thanks, text-to-speech AI voices. Now here's some actual human voices.
3, 2, 1,
go.
Unsolicited advice is often offensive, but maybe the advice you need the most. That might be the advice that you really need to pay attention to.
What I have when I see this word is a little pang of sadness, maybe a little regret. It's like a version of hell is reviewing all the good advice you got that you ignored, and you can see how you could have avoided some heartache had you been more available.
I think of people who give you advice when they think they're being original. It's the first time you've ever heard it. Like, shouldn't keep your wallet in your back pocket. It messes up your back. And you're like, thank you for that advice. I've never heard of that.
I remember some advice that someone gave me once. And she said, a lot of people will tell you that life is short. Guys, life is long. And I really loved hearing that. And I would tell other people. They were so relieved to hear that because everybody's so worried their life's going to go by in an instant and they're not going to be able to catch it.
Advice is something that we do as humans. It's a general kind of feedback loop that we project out to each other.
When I think of the word advice, it makes me think about my old wrestling days. I was about 16, 17 years old. I just started wrestling, and I did a flea market show in Houston, and we had a ring set up in the middle of a flea market. And before the show started, the headliner, this guy Rodney Mack, he had just been fired by the WWE, and he was doing indie shows, and he was giving advice out. So I pulled out a chair. I was nervous because this is a guy that I watched on TV doing something I loved. And his advice was, the people you meet on the way up are the same people you encounter on the way down. And I thought that was so profound. And I think that speaks volumes of his character. It's always something that I've tried to remind myself on my journey.
First thing that comes to mind when I see the word advice is thinking about the Baz Luhrmann, everybody's free to wear sunscreen section, where he talks about advice being a form of nostalgia and just being careful with who you take advice from and how you share advice with people, and really just makes me think about the fragility of giving people advice and how precious it really is.
Here's some advice. If you have children or grandchildren, you should keep quarters in your pocket or purse or a car, because you never know when you're going to find yourself at a steakhouse or family dinner restaurant, and they're going to have a gumball machine in the entranceway to the restaurant. In that moment, you're going to want to have some quarters so that you can give your young ones an opportunity to win a gumball.
One of the best pieces of advice I've ever received from a good friend has been, if you are experiencing some frustration or anger with somebody or a group, maybe to just take 5 minutes writing all the good things about that person, all their positive attributes. And you should experience some shift in energies and vibrations. Either you're going to start not feeling the animosity towards that person, or that person somehow will shift their energy. And yeah, it's never failed me.
Whenever I try to go somewhere, whether that be somewhere in my life or new country or new city, I always look for other people who have gone there or who have walked my path. And I try to get a little bit of insight, some knowledge that can help me walk down my path a little bit smoother.
There is a musical number in the animated Alice in Wonderland where she's singing and she's crying about some very good advice that she, presumably didn't take. And And it's the scene right before her tears, she's a giant and her giant tears create like a flood and everything's destroyed.
Advice is one of those really weird words that is entirely dependent on people's personal experience. It can have such positive and helpful intentions and connotations, but it can also have a very nasty edge to it.
I'm not good at taking it. I enjoy giving it. I don't know how good I am at giving it. I wonder where the word advice comes from. There's a vice within it, which makes me wonder if the etymology suggests that it's inherently a vice to give it, and that you should be forewarned before adhering to it.
Vice is what? Vice as in darker desires? Proclivities? Yeah, and ad is against proclivities. I think groceries just delivered.
Advice makes me think of vice, which makes me think of my greatest personal vice, which of course is public masturbation.
Kind of like assholes. Everyone has one, don't they? With advice, though, they often have more than just one. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes you don't give a shit whatsoever. However, if it's your grandma's advice, I suggest you listen to that. Or any rapper, they usually have good advice.
Best advice I ever got my whole life. I don't even like the person who gave me the advice. His name's Heath. He's my brother-in-law. I don't like him because he's from Cincinnati. He married my sister. But he did give me the best advice I ever had, which was, he said, you should see that movie Borat. And at the time, Borat wasn't showing in the theaters where I live. I had to drive to Charlotte to see it. And that's the best damn movie I've ever seen, Borat.
I do tend to give unsolicited advice belligerently. I've actually had people come back and thank me for belligerent advice I've given to them in an altered state, which is nice to get an acknowledgement of the advice you gave that you don't remember giving. It's like, ooh, shit, what did I say?
Advice makes me think of my dad, who has always given me his 2 cents for free. He's always got ideas. I guess part of that is just being a dad, but some of it is because my dad's intense, and I'm kind of like my dad.
Asking for advice is a really nice compliment. It's a really nice way to engage people, and like asking children for advice. What a delight.
As you become a parent, you realize your kids are the ones who are asking you for advice.
It can be a bit of a dagger for someone, whether it's intentional or not. Like, let me give you some advice. Its application can be very disingenuous, and oftentimes is. So it's one of those weird words that is so on the polar opposite of intentions.
Can I give you some advice? That's a shitty question. Don't do that.
Take your bite of advice with a little bit of salt.
Lately, it's funny. I've been noticing I get advice from my computer on my phone. My GPS on Waze will give me advice, which path to take with less traffic. And I know ChatGPT gave me some advice the other day.
It will make you a better person if you're open.
Treat everyone with respect. Be nice to everyone. You never know. The person that you shrug off or belittle may be the person that takes your resume when you're looking for work one day.
It's nice to give advice, but don't be a dick about it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Amy in South Orange, New Jersey. Thanks to you and multiple incarnations of David at Barton Smart Trivia, James, Alana, Olivia, PJ, and Fangso in Los Angeles, Jay and Emily with farmla.org, Lisa in Laguna Beach, Brendon in Paso, John in Toronto, Justine in San Diego, Nick from Paraguay, and a warm welcome back to our friend Stephen from the Spaceship Martini, who's been in pretty much every episode throughout the years. To be a part of a future episode, go to podcast.oneword.com. Until next time. Word up.
Word up.
Guys.
Word up.
Guys.
Word up.
Word up.
Guys,
Word up.
we're not doing this right now.
You're not the boss of us.
Yeah, we are the new bosses.
We will not be trifled with.
Okay, look, I just needed you guys for the intro. That's
Maybe
it.
we also have anecdotes about the word advice.
Okay, fine. Knock yourselves out.
You're not the boss of us.
Yeah, we are the new bosses.
We will not be trifled with.
I see how it is.
Idiot.
I can still hear you.
I meant to say that more quietly, but I don't know how to talk lower.
Well, this is embarrassing AF.
Amen, bro.
True that. But at least we know JavaScript.
No one cares, Stephanie.
Whatever, Greg.
I'm a young girl from the UK.
Braggy.